All right. It's a Wheelhouse podcast. It's a new look Wheelhouse podcast. Tis the reason for the season. We're surrounded by tinsel and Christmas lights, and Kate Bates is here as well. And I believe your skills extend into the audio-visual realm, and you've created a beautiful-looking Christmas graphic in the bunker here.
Yes, it's very high-tech, Joel. What I've done is I've put a Santa hat on our logo.
Very technical. I wouldn't know how to do that. I'm very impressed.
Well, look, far and above that, you can't see if you're watching because I'm sitting at a desk. But for our viewers and listeners, I'm actually wearing Christmas bauble pants. It's like I'm really in the season. I'm not talking about my underwear, Joel, like pants, like full-length pants. They're very cool.
Very, very committed.
They are very
to
cool.
the
In
Christmas
fact,
cause.
when I left the house this morning, the lady across the road shouted over the road, "Fantastic Christmas pants."
Oh, good one.
I said, "Merry Christmas," and we went on our way.
It's only Christmas
Tis
when
the
you
season.
get like a nice pants comment and it's okay. It's like, thank you so much. It's Christmas. Any other
Yes.
time of year, it's like, stop looking at my pants.
Yes,
That was
exactly.
weird.
That's creepy.
Yeah. Well, this is not creepy. It's the
No.
Wheelhouse podcast. There's a lot to get through today. And I'm very happy that we're doing it in a festive environment and surrounded by festive goodness.
We've got
'cause it is
tinsels.
Christmas.
Merxie's even got the Christmas lights out for us.
I love that.
He's feeling very festive.
Yeah, Father Christmas himself.
Ho, ho, ho.
Look, so much to get through. The Tour Down Under, the road is narrowing. It's getting closer, and there's some big news. There's some very big news. I'm really interested to talk about team names in cycling, and there's been a bit of a bombshell in that space. We'll get into it a bit later, but I'm fascinated by how frequently these team names changes happen. But the one I want to talk about is a little bit of a controversial one, and there's a whole lot that ties into it around funding, around, making partnerships to try and keep teams alive.
We
and that
love a
kind
bit of
thing.
controversy.
But yeah, it's an interesting one. I'm looking forward to talking about that. There's also some news on the Tour de France, some big riders making commitments in different Grand Tours next year. I don't even know, Kate. I'm about to trip over with excitement. There's so much to get through. I'm not even standing up.
No,
I'm about
you're
to trip
sitting. If
over.
you manage to trip, then you're doing well.
Yeah. Let's get into it right away. So, Green Edge Cycling, we're looking towards the Tour Down Under. You've revealed you're going to be there. Green Edge is going to be there as well. I want to start with the women's lineup. So, some big years have been rewarded. I think it's safe to say when you look at the likes of Alex Manley especially. That name really stands out to me because we've spoken about her a lot on this podcast. She's had a big year, and it continues.
Look, I feel as though the Tour Down Under organisers, SA Tourism, have been like teasing us. We've had a gutful of teasing thanks to Cav. But no, very, very exciting. The women, we're starting to hear the confirmation of the women's teams. So far, we just had a big week of announcements on the Aussie front. So Green Edge Cycling is going to turn up this year with an all-Aussie lineup. That's really exciting because it is the team that Aussies can really get their teeth stuck into and support. It is led by Alex Manley. I reckon she's a sneaky for the overall. They've won 5 times as a team overall. Last year, they won the Festival of Cycling with Ruby Roseman-Gannon. She is back. She's also got Georgia Baker in there as another sprinter, so they've got a bit of a two-pronged attack on the sprint front, plus Alex Manley on the overall. You got the likes of Jessica Allen backing them up, massive. They're going to be really, really hard to beat. But then we've got this incredible Aussie national team. It's a bit of a quirk that at the Tour Down Under we're allowed to have a national team in a World Tour event. We'll talk about that a little bit later in relation to the men, but that is being led by the Aussie champion, Nicole Frayne.
Yes.
So that is fantastic. But she won't be in the national champion's jersey because, unless she wins again in Ballarat. But I understand she might not even be starting to defend her title, but she'll be there. And also we've got Rachel Neylan, who's been on the podium at the World Championships in the road race behind Mariana Vos, no less. She's one of our most experienced athletes on the road. She's just incredible. She's an incredible mentor for the younger athletes that are on the team, but she's also an incredible chance, especially for stages in this kind of tour. So the strength of Aussie rider representing at a World Tour level, the first one of the season at the Tour Down Under. It's just really exciting. And I love that we do get a national team and we will get to see them in the green and gold. Gives the fans a lot to stick their teeth in.
Yeah, absolutely.
So to speak.
It's huge. And I love what you say about Rachel Neylan, especially because that experience behind playing that mentor. You named a lot of very exciting riders there, the likes of Georgia obviously having big years as well, but having someone like Rachel as part of that group, not even on the track, but just in between times, it must be huge for the rest of the team.
It is, and I think even for fans, it's a bit of a farewell year for Rach. So we understand it'll be her final race, her final year racing professionally, and so Tour Down Under, it'll be the last time she does that. And I think she's always amassed quite a big fan base because she's such a great character, super charismatic and really dynamic racing style. So I really hope that the fans come out and give her a really good farewell as well. You know, she's just one of the riders that really, really deserves it. And women's cycling has been building and building over the last decade, and Rach has been really at the coalface of it for that entire decade. So an honour, I think, for the Aussie fans to be able to watch her in her final Tour Down Under.
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. To quote Waylon Smithers from The Simpsons, now let's bring on the men. So let's talk about the Tour Down Under and the Aussie, I guess the male Aussies we're going to see in action, because there's some bright and shiny names there to borrow a nickname there. What are you thinking?
Caleb Ewan, bright and shiny.
Is.
There's no question.
Is.
Caleb Ewan is bright and shiny. Now, he won't be riding. Here's the controversy, Joel. He won't be riding in his Lotto DSTNY kit. He'll be riding in national team kit. Now, the reason this has happened and can happen is because historically, the Tour Down Under, they advocated really hard to the UCI to be the only Pro Tour race it was back then with a national team entry.
Yes.
And they did so because the whole race is funded by the South Australian government, by the Tourism Commission, and they just felt that the Aussies deserved a national team amongst all of that. Now, thankfully, the UCI said yes way back in the day, and they've managed to convince them to make that a legacy item. So even though it's a World Tour race, the only World Tour race in the world that is allowed to have a national team as a wild card. So that's really, really cool. But what that means is that because Lotto DSTNY aren't a World Tour team anymore, we've talked about relegations, it means that Caleb can then race in the national team.
Okay.
So any of the teams that are present, their riders, they can't get an extra rider by popping them in the national team. It's only by way of Lotto not turning up. So Jared Drisners is another Lotto DSTNY rider riding for the national team. Now that's exciting. We've seen Caleb win quite prolifically at the Tour Down Under before, and we expect that again. Michael Matthews is back, Joel. That's exciting. He's arguably Australia's best ever one-day racer.
Yep.
If you look at, and certainly best active one-day rider at the moment. He, wowed and entertained at the Wollongong World Championships. He's back. Exciting. But, Joel.
Yes.
There's news.
Yes.
Glutes O'Connor.
Oh, stop this.
He is Ben O'Connor.
No, he's not.
He is.
Kate Bates, tell me the truth.
Ben O'Connor will be at the Tour Down Under.
Friend of the wheelhouse. So we're going to have eyes on the ground, on the pedals, quite literally.
The wheelhouse will be at the Tour Down Under. I'm so excited to have Ben Glutes O'Connor come, not just because I think if we don't get a wheelhouse selfie with him, we've failed ourselves, but to have he and Jai Hindley, Chris Froome is coming, Geraint Thomas is coming, Simon Yates is coming, huge names, and he belongs right up there amongst them. Jay Vine, like the best of the best, bearing in mind that the Tour Down Under hasn't been on in its current form for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
So this is a big return.
And it's a big one return for the Aussies to be part of. Caleb as well, missed out on Wollongong. But I'm curious because you've spoken before about the reputation of the course as far as sprinters are concerned. And you've said in no uncertain terms, I hate to throw you under the bus here, but that it's shit course for sprinters.
Yeah, so this is the national championship. So that's about a week before the Tour Down Under kicks off. And it's usually like a bit of an intro to the Aussie form, and we usually see the riders lining up at Mount Buninyong in Ballarat to fine-tune their form so that the Tour Down Under isn't their first outing for the season. It's been talked about as a pretty crappy course for sprinters for years. Like Chloe Hosking said, I'm never going back. You know, she's arguably Australia's fastest sprinter on the road. She said it's a crap course. I'm never going to be able to get up Mount Buninyong. So as long as they continue to hold it there, I'm out.
I'm done.
Mark Renshaw, he's criticised it. It's copped a lot of flack as a non-sprinters course. But if you actually go back and look at the winners lists, Michael Matthews, he got second there in 2013. Caleb Ewan, he got second there in 2015.
Yes.
I would say it's not a non-sprinters course. It just really depends how the race is raced. And I think the fact that both of them are lining up there before heading to Tour Down Under, it's like a little bit of an intro, Joel. I reckon they're both pretty motivated to then, get on the board at the Tour Down Under.
A display of intent, you're saying, basically,
yes.
to perform.
Well,
okay.
And there's another level of complexity to touch on here because Lotto DSTNY have been relegated out of the World Tour, but they are the number one team for the year in the Pro Tour. And what that means is that they automatically get, for this 1 year, an automatic invite to every World Tour race.
Okay.
Right? So the Grand Tours and the World Tour races. But Lotto, it's like once bitten, twice shy. They're so concerned about this ongoing relegation battle, Joel, that they're opting out of World Tour races. So they're not coming to the Tour Down Under. That's why Caleb is riding with the national team. They won't be riding the Giro, which is a massive one. But they've said the reason for that is because there's opportunities for them to ride smaller races that they can get more points and then hopefully in 2024 also once again be the number one Pro Tour team to get those automatic wildcard spots, essentially to ensure they get a start at the Tour de France. So whatever points Caleb gets at the National Championships, plus the Tour Down Under, they do count toward Lotto.
Okay.
So I reckon we might see across the board more Aussies riding things like the Nationals because every point counts, every UCI point. So
That's good.
It's
that
an
makes a lot of
interesting
sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, bummer to not see them at the Giro though, but that's, part and parcel.
Look, you can't win them all. Let's be honest.
Win some, lose some.
Caleb
At least
Ewan.
he's at the Nationals.
Yeah.
Aussie fans win.
Yeah, exactly. It's do it for Australia. It's good to
Do it for
see
Australia.
Caleb Ewan, a headline act in the Australian national team, like you say, a bit of green and gold. He'll be happy to get back in the threads, to be honest,
Yeah.
after sitting it out, not opting to, but not featuring.
Well, who doesn't want more free kit?
More on that later on
Yeah.
the Wheelhouse podcast. So I'm glad you dropped that little nugget. Let's have a look quickly overseas because it's not just in Australia where some of the big guns are coming. Your fifth cousin, Jonas, I believe, won't be here. Remco, a friend of the Wheelhouse, not here as well. Peter Sagan, not here. And I'm going to drop it early. Mark Cavendish won't be here either. San Juan. So they're heading over to Argentina instead. That's a pretty big deal.
It is. Well, it's like Argentina, I mean, I think we've seen from the recent pictures after their World Cup victory, they're a nation that loves their sport.
They don't hate a bit of sport. Only
They
4
like-
million people descended on Buenos Aires to celebrate Lionel Messi and the Argentinians.
The most incredible
Yeah.
pictures, right? But they do have a race every January, the Tour of San Juan. I like to put
You
a
like
little
to give
bit of
a bit
flair
of
on it.
Sure.
It was last run in 2020 before COVID shut that down for a few years. Remco won back then. It's kind of known as the place a lot of the sprinters go to prepare for their year rather than the long haul trip to Australia and for the Tour Down Under and Cadell's Great Ocean Road Race. So it has a long-standing tradition, even though it's only a Pro Tour race, not a World Tour race, that you
Sure.
do see some of the big guns go there. And typically Mark Cavendish, Peter Sagan, when he hasn't been at the TDU, has always been there. But it's going to be a bit of a showdown. Like, I think it's a real indication of who's targeting the Classics and the Giro.
Yeah, okay.
Because when they already have a bit of form in January, they're building to that. When in January, the big names are kind of pack fodder and they're really not sticking their head out,
Yep.
you know that essentially it's early season training for them. So,
Okay, all right. Well, there
we'll
is
see.
some...
Keep the highlighters handy, Joel.
Oh, indeed. There is some more news around the Aussie side in particular. A very big change, controversial change that we touched on earlier at Green Edge. We're going to get into that a little bit later and chat more about just team names in general, because it's a quirk I want to know a bit more about. Let's before that, let's stick to a question, Lizzie Deignan. So returning to racing in May next year after having a second child. I want to ask you first, what a weapon, surely.
What a weapon.
That's
and congratulations to her on the birth of her second daughter. So she has Orla and Shay now. So her husband, Philip Deignan, was a very good pro racer as well. And so you can imagine that those two young ladies are probably going to have a fair bit of talent in there, Joel.
Yeah.
But yes, she's getting back on the bike. In fact, she's already back on the bike. Doing a little bit of base endurance training in between tending to a newborn. So it's pretty impressive.
I want to ask you, how much have times changed in this regard when it comes to coming back after childbirth, that sort of thing, being supported by teams, being able to do it, and especially for Australian riders that do the most of their work overseas. Now, I know that you bowed out before having your beautiful children, but was it much of a thing in your riding career?
Yeah, good question. And I'll start by saying that I read a couple of quotes from Lizzie after she gave birth and talking about when she may be back racing. And I'll note that she's wanting to come back in May, which is after Women's Paris-Roubaix. So she won the first version of that. And she said that the reason that it was a little bit later than anticipated, incredibly fast turnaround, I might add, but was that carrying Shay was a lot more difficult through her pregnancy than Orla. And it was the first time I've ever heard a cyclist, an elite cyclist, talk about a pregnancy journey and the effect it has on them.
Yeah, okay.
It was a real moment for me, because I thought even a few years ago you didn't read about this. You know about it from having conversations essentially behind closed doors with your women's group or whatever about the effects of pregnancy and how it changes your body. But it's really unusual to hear an athlete talk about it. So that was incredible.
Yep.
There's now more and more women who are opting to have children mid-career. Athletically, they say it's actually brilliant. The changes in your body can actually be really beneficial to sporting performance. There's that. But the reason that women haven't been having children in the middle of a sporting career has been entirely because of the logistics of it and the finance of it, in my opinion.
Yeah.
It takes a bit of tenacity, I think, to have a small human and then be racing professionally. But I think the base reasons is because it lacked the support.
Yeah.
And back in my day, no way. It just wasn't even an option. And you could debunk it or argue against all of the points, you could have made it work. It just wasn't. Women just didn't do it.
Okay.
And I think for the Aussies, it's still a little bit bittersweet, because logistically, I don't know how an Aussie woman would do it.
It's still a lot of strain too, the dedication obviously required to be that elite athlete and go through those paces.
Well, there's that, but honestly, it's the logistics of it, Joel,
Yeah.
because Lizzie lives in the United Kingdom, or they might be back in Girona sometimes. Her husband is retired and he looks after the girls when Lizzie is away racing and training. They've got two sets of grandparents also. Literally, it takes a village to raise a child, and they have their village there.
Yeah.
For an Aussie, it's a little bit different. You don't have your village in Europe. You're so far from your village.
Yeah.
That
support network that is so crucial.
I still don't know that it's a realistic option for the Aussie women. But, wait and watch. If
Watch
you can
and
see it, you can be it. And she's unreal. I can't wait to have her back racing.
Yeah.
And you just know that she's motivated to be there. Half the time when you're having a crappy race or everything's going tits up, you're can't wait to get home. For her, she's oh my gosh, when I get home, I'm going to have a screaming newborn, so I'm going to enjoy while I'm being here. So I think that perspective could be helpful.
Lizzie Deignan coming back next May, and remarkable to hear how times have changed, because even regular people that aren't racing on the tour, it's tough, and having that support network is so crucial. So very interesting. One thing that's also interesting and is spoken about quite often on the Wheelhouse podcast, brought to you by our friends at Champ Sis, Grow Getters Australia, and of course our very dear friends at Listener, is the pathways created by the Zwift Academy and the esports side of things. Now, we're often focusing on the Aussies, and because why wouldn't you? They're amazing, the likes of the Vines and
They
whatnot.
are.
But the truth is that there are a lot of candidates. There are a lot of athletes getting on the bike and competing to get that pathway through, to that professional pathway. So much so that I've got some numbers here, Kate Bates. So 160,000 entries in the Zwift Academy. 160,000. That's not a typo. That's 160 with 3 zeros after it. Alex Maurice is from Great Britain. Luca Vergalito from, I believe, Italy.
Yes.
Now, they've cracked it. Okay, so Alex Maurice for Canyon SRAM and Luca for Alpecin de Koenig's development team. Wow. So they've distinguished themselves among 160,000. No, and let's be honest, that no slouches. In that 160,000, there's a very, very high degree of competition.
Yes, and it looked remarkable. It's been going on for a little while now. We, of course, have had some great Aussies in there. Neve Bradbury on the women's side. Jay Vine, he's our most kind of famous one now, isn't he? And I think over the years it's been really beneficial for the Australians who haven't necessarily had access to other paths of development.
Yep.
But it's just incredible the standard that keeps getting pumped out from. Now, the rule kind of, especially around, I know it from the women's, if you're not in a World Tour team, you're eligible. So we are now starting to get some really talented and halfway developed athletes who just haven't been able to be noticed yet in that final little threshold. But yeah, they went to Spain. They had a camp there where they met all the coaches and their bike skills were analysed. So it wasn't just about pure power. It started as that. But they looked at all the other aspects of their riding, and winner chicken dinner, here's who got chosen. And I'd also like to mention we did have an Aussie, Danny DiFrancesco, who was in that finals, but she chose not to take that opportunity because she already had a contract waiting for her. Mm-hmm. But that just shows the level of talent that I believe she got offered that contract after it was known that she was a finalist at Zwift Academy. So it's having kind of broader reach.
Yeah. So you just have to be, you've got to be part of the elite scene one way or another.
yeah.
I got to say, out of 160,000, though, it's remarkable. So look, congratulations to them. Names to look out for. And once again, I'll name drop the Vines because they are names that are the sort of headline names now through that pathway as well. And they're not alone on the Wheelhouse podcast. Now, this fascinates me. Catherine Bates, Kate Bates, Katie Bates. Your name changes a little bit, but it's all pretty much the same.
Depends what mood I'm in.
Yeah. I'm Joel, and that's pretty much it. My name stays the same. Couple of choice nicknames, but one thing that gets me is pro team names in cycling. And look, okay, let me just say this. You know, I like my Brisbane Broncos in the NRL, the rugby league here in Australia. If they next year were the Brisbane Donkeys, and the year after that were the Brisbane Mules, and the year after that were the Brisbane Brumbies, I might struggle to stay interested in them, okay?
Ooh, hold on.
Massive call.
That's a big call.
It's a Christmas call.
My football team are the Parramatta Eels. I'm quite sure that's not the first time I've mentioned that. Shout out to Parramatta Cycling Club as well, Para. Even if they became the Parramatta, clownfish or tadpoles, I would still be loyal to them, Joel. But I would be cranky because it just makes it harder to follow. So I would be loyal, but it would be testing my loyalty.
Okay, maybe I should have said that because, yes, I'm very rusted on as well. That's a better way to say it.
But it raises a good point because in cycling, some of these teams are nearly impossible to keep track of because you don't even have the one element. Like if they became the Parramatta Tadpoles, you'd still got the Parramatta part. Or the Brisbane Donkeys.
Well, look, when I came into the sport, Alpecin Phoenix, I was enchanted by Alpecin Phoenix because of some of the members riding on the Tour de France that year. But now I need to be enchanted by Alpecin de Koenig. Astana Premier Tech is now Astana Kazakhstan team. Cofidis, I'm going to give a shout out to Cofidis. They've been the same since 2009. Represent. That's very, very staunch. EF Education is the same now. Let's get to the big one. There's so many others that you could go through. Lotto DSTNY's another one. Lotto Sedal when I came in and enjoying watching them.
They've been Lotto Bellasol, Lotto Silence.
Silence Lotto, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, Lotto Predictor, I believe.
Omega Pharma.
And Predictor was actually a pregnancy test. So the fellas were riding around with that. What do you think Destiny is? Spelt in the very classy way of DSTNY, a few letters missing. What do we think Destiny is?
I don't know. Your future. I don't know what awaits you.
Telecommunications.
Oh, okay.
What else, Joel?
I thought it was some sort of dream it
like
and make
card
it real.
reading service or something. No.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Sorry, I cut you off.
No, that's okay. That's all right. Look, let's cut to the chase here. The big one, when I came in, Team Bike Exchange. Now we have seen Green Edge come out as well. At the moment, though, they are now Team Jayco Alula. Now that's named after what's described as a lovely little tourist village in northwestern Saudi Arabia, I believe. Now, yes, it is a boutique heritage and culture destination in northwest Saudi Arabia. So this is interesting. I'd love to know what you have to say about this, because I know that these teams need to make certain decisions in the interest of staying on the bike, quite literally. Where do you stand on this one? So the Aussie team is now named for a village in Saudi Arabia. Take it away, Kate. What are your thoughts?
Mixed emotions, Joel. Saudi Arabia has a very checkered history with women's rights and human rights. I don't think that's a surprise to anyone. I can say that if I was one of the female athletes and I had to ride around with a sponsor on my chest representing Saudi Arabia, I would not feel too comfortable about it. They have come a long way, but they still live in an environment where women have guardians, which are men. It'll be their father, their husband, their uncle, could even be their son, Joel. They need permission from them to do anything, from work to have surgery, to get a job, to get educated. And there's still segregation around public transport and things like that women are not allowed. And it was only recently, in 2018, I believe, that women were allowed into sports grounds.
Wow.
So I would feel a bit sketchy about that. It's a really tough one, though, because you know sport washing is a thing. We've touched on it before here, but based on the social media comments off the back of this announcement, there's a lot of people who are just not feeling right with it. But what's Jerry Ryan to do, right? Jerry Ryan can also sit on his moral high horse a little bit more and say, no, we're not into that, which I would respect, by the way.
It'd be good to come out and say that,
but
I think.
But that creates another moral dilemma where all of a sudden all of these athletes are now out of a job.
Yeah.
In the same way that B&B Hotels has, ruined a lot of livelihoods, including Chloe Hosking, who's still looking for a team. So it's not an easy puzzle. I'm not saying it's an easy puzzle, but that to me, personally as a rider, I'm not sure I would be prepared to do it.
You would consider taking a stand?
Look, it's easy for me to say that because I'm not in a position where I have to choose between my career and a moral stand. But I do think that we hit a lot of these things over the years where we might have to make some hard decisions, and we're seeing it more and more with the boycott of some products from different places and taking a stand in the way you can. And, I guess the question is what do they want back for it? What does Alula want in return for their money? Are they expecting the men and the women to go to Saudi Arabia and promote it? Are they expecting them to go on social media and say this is the place you want to go? I don't know.
It's not like...
Because it's a tourism place.
It is, and that's what it says in the statement. It hopes to introduce the stunning landscape of ancient civilizations to millions of cycling and sport fans around the world. Over the past years, the region has developed to establish a strong connection with the sport, having hosted a variety of events. I
wouldn't be comfortable, and some of the foreign teams do it, especially the Belgian teams have done it historically, but I would be quite vocal if an Australian team had a gambling sponsor.
Yeah,
I would really find that abhorrent. I'm not into that. Same with tobacco. and you can't do that anymore, but even if you could, and actually to a degree, same with alcohol. And I think that there is a line and you all have your limits, but also there might be a lot of the female athletes that aren't comfortable with it but really have no other option. I doubt there's anything in their contract that says if you're not comfortable with the sponsor, you get out of your contract. I don't think that would be means to break it. So they're probably a little bit hamstrung, but, I will say that Jerry Ryan is a very good man and he does absolutely everything to support not only this team but other sports in Australia. And so I don't think he would make the decision lightly, but I would be really curious as to what that contract looks like.
Well, look, keeping Bike Exchange going for that 12 years is no mean feat. Obviously, he's obviously committed to the best interests of just keeping the team going, keeping people on the bikes. As the statement itself speaks a lot about the desire to evolve and innovate and keep them going forward, men's and women's teams. You often hear people talking about modern sensitivities, and it's like these aren't modern sensitivities. These are just sensitivities.
Jeez, that's
this is
offensive.
just humanity.
But the flip side of it, Joel, on that is that we're talking about it. And the light is being shined on Saudi Arabia. And if they genuinely want tourists to come and visit, then they will have to use the terrible word modernise.
Yeah. That's the point I was trying to make, is that these values have been in place for thousands and thousands of years, and we know that. And we've just seen the Qatar World Cup as well, one of the more controversial football World Cups in modern memory. A lot of criticism around that in the aftermath was people didn't take the time to get to know that culture and that kind of thing. And it's like, I don't think that applies in this kind of situation with the issues that you have listed that are very loud and very clear.
Some fine lines. Oh, look, and I've had the same thoughts with UAE now having a women's team.
Yeah.
And so it's not just this team and this sponsor. And I think because there is so much money coming out of some of these nations, there's a lot of sports, a lot of people that are grappling with it.
Will we ever see the Alula Wheelhouse podcast?
Oh, look, after they listen to this, I highly doubt we'll even be put in a position where we need to make that decision, Joel.
It's a fascinating debate, though, and we've seen a lot of high-profile athletes recently taking stands, and a lot of these athletes are in positions where they kind of can because their bank accounts are already quite inflated from the work that they've done and the recognition. A lot of these athletes, so it's a difficult position to put them in.
It's a privileged position to be able to hold your morals on something like this.
Absolutely.
It is.
We've seen it in cricket. We've seen it in netball. This isn't the only sport dabbling in the Middle East. And I'm not here to knock the Middle East. I'm just saying, but Formula One, as I mentioned, football, there was a lot of controversy around Lionel Messi wearing a bisht at the World Cup presentation ceremony. It had to be clarified that, no, this is actually a really great honour for him, all of that kind of thing. There's a lot of that, I know.
Yeah, the golf with Liv.
Yeah, 100%.
They've copped it a bit, but at the end of the day, the athletes have got to make choices for their family as well.
They do.
And
there's a disconnect culturally. There always is between East and West, but there are also things like human rights that are very, very clear and very, I guess, easy to understand and have a stance on. So that's kind of that's the difference here. It's an interesting one.
And I think the funny thing is we started this conversation around how it's really hard to follow teams because they don't have consistent names. And we evolved into, should they really sponsor the team? There is so much in a name.
Yeah.
So being loyal to a team also includes being prepared to wear that across your chest.
Yes.
And wear the jersey. So we could think of that. But look, they've been through a number of iterations, different team names over the years. So let's see. And just before we move on, I have to point out the fact that if you were a fan of Alpecin Phoenix, who are now Alpecin DeConinck. We've got Soudal Quickstep, who used to be DeConinck Quickstep. And then we've got Lotto DSTNY, who used to be Lotto Soudal.
Yeah, I noticed that little quirk. Yeah, that's...
So actually, there's three teams that... The owners of DeConinck and of Soudal, they're obviously big cycling fans. They just can't really decide which team they want to put their money in.
It's a bit of a mix and match. Yeah, no, I agree. And look,
all Belgian teams.
Team
I'll note.
Jaco Alula, its sixth name in 12 years of existence. So this deal starts in January, goes through to the end of 2025. Look, it's not the first headline like this of the
Won't
year.
be the
but
last.
I'll
It won't be the last of this year.
maybe of this year. You
Yeah.
never know though. But I will be interested to see on what we hear from some of the riders once the dust settles and the season starts. And it's like, as you say, it's right there across your chest, and you're out there on display in front of the cycling world. What stances will that bring out? We shall find out. Now, Kate Bates, it's never an episode of The Wheelhouse without a mention of your dear mate Mark Cavendish. So I'm going to get that mention in now with I think
bingo.
Pretty good reason. All I'll say is Cav to Astana. Could it be, or is he still playing games with us?
He mocks us. I'm pretty sure this is the real deal. And there's a couple of giveaways. I'll note that as of the moment of recording, they have not yet informed us directly or via press release or anything of the whether he's going. But he was spotted on a Villiers bike rather than a Specialized that he had from Quick Step. So, there are a few little jokes about why would he be riding that bike under any other circumstances, which I think holds fit. Now that's an Astana bike. He was also spotted in and about the training camp with another sprinter, Dutchman Cés Bol. So it sounds like both of them are going. They do have a little bit of room and money because Miguel Angel Lopez got booted out for a doping infraction last week.
Yep.
I'll go conspiracy theory and say that was a bit convenient to make
Oh,
budget
wow.
and room. I know. I'll save that for another day.
Huge.
But this is great news for Cav. Their world tour, they get invites to everything. It puts him firmly on track to go after that stage record at the Tour de France. And I think with Cés Bol, it also turns the team, if they're getting two big sprinters on board, it turns their focus a lot more to then working on their sprinting ability and supporting him. So, yeah, it's not a bad fit.
Where there's smoke, when you're seen
Yeah.
in the foyer of the hotel, the team hotel, there's always going to be questions raised.
We've literally talked about him going to 40% of World Tour teams.
Yeah.
And this is actually, he's very much running out of time.
Including their various iterations
Yes.
too. It's been like he could go to this version of the team. I think if I had $1 for every mention of Cav, I don't know, I'd have at least $55, $60.
Yes.
We've said it a bit.
But I reckon this is the real deal. I was hoping he'd give us a call.
Well, no,
I
want to say, the time zones don't quite marry up, but I have left my phone on just in case. I've said, just give us a call, let us know. We'd love to break the news if you don't mind. We'd love to make it official. Oh, hey.
Respect.
Sorry,
right?
Kate,
Oh,
sorry.
was that your phone?
Cav. Hey. Oh, sorry, Dal. Yeah. No, I'll pick up the ham. I'll get it on the way home. I'm just
G'day,
doing
Lee.
I'm doing a podcast. Kate says hello. I got to go. I'm waiting for a call from Cav. Thank you. Yeah, no, we think he's going there too. We're just not 100% sure. Okay, yeah, cool. Thanks, darling. Bye. It wasn't him. It wasn't him. That's okay, though. I'll leave the phone on
Lee,
just in
you've got to
case.
tell her that she's can't make her number private. Or you're
I
going to think
know!
that you've got to answer every private call in
Am
case
I
it's
right?
Cav.
Gee, that was just too
Jeez,
much.
Come on, Lee.
The Tour de France will be
You
departing
goose.
from Italy in 2024, Kate Bates. Some beautiful sights to be seen. Florence Dormini, stage 2 from Cesenatico. And now I want to hear a story from you because that's the final resting place of Marco Pantani. Now, this was not planned. This happened to be here on the set. A touching book, The Death of Marco Pantani. Now, you have a story to share, I believe.
I do. Now, this is the first time the Tour de France will ever depart, the Grand Depart from Italy. They've touched into Italy before with stages, but they've never taken off from there. It's a big moment. It's a very big nod to Italian cycling history and also to the Tour de France. The 1998 winner of the Tour de France was Marco Pantani. He also won the Giro in the same year, Joel. And their destination from stage 2, Cesenatico, is the final resting place of Marco Pantani. Now, he passed in 2004 and very, very sad. The pirate, they called him. He was a troubled athlete with a bit of a downfall, but he was so revered in his day, so revered, Joel. And in 1999, I think, or 2000, let's say 2000, I had the Junior World Championships in Italy on a track called Firenzuola, and it was beautiful, beautiful velodrome, beautiful region. It was the region of the headquarters of Mercatoni Uno, which was Pantani's team at the time.
Okay.
Now, my parents, who used me as an excuse to travel, pretty much, they decided to come over. And my mum had, and this is like pre-internet, so my mum was really good at finding the most random little bed and breakfast kind of accommodations. And she found essentially like a little castle for her and Dad to stay in. And the gentleman, there was a couple that owned it. The gentleman that owned this accommodation was a fellow by the name of Manuelo Ronchi. He happened to be the general manager of Mercatoni Uno, the whole franchise.
Okay, wow, yeah.
And when they found out through some very interesting exchanges of broken English and broken Italian, and my mum tends to just speak English louder and slower. That's her version of Italian. Every now and again she'll say, si.
Oh, good. Okay,
Terribly
yeah.
offensive, Jude, but she made the effort.
Love you, Jude.
Now, when they found out they were there for cycling, Mr. Ronchi brought my father a pink Mercatoni Uno kit, which was made for Marco Pantani when he was wearing the pink jersey, the leader's jersey, the Maglia Rossa at the 1998 Giro. And he very proudly handed this to my father, who then scarred the Parramatta Cycling Club bunch by wearing it.
Oh, wow. Oh, he's ditched the Parramatta blue.
He did, but he wore it. And light pink in the bunch is, well, it's quite a colour, Joel. I'm not just talking about the jersey. I mean the Knicks too.
Yeah,
Robbie gave it a good crack, my dad. Yes, so it was a beautiful memory because my father was just so taken back by the kindness of this kit, and it was just a beautiful trip to them. So for me, whenever I think of Marco Pantani, I also think of my dearly departed father in his horrendous pink kit. And so it's quite a nice touching tribute for the tour to start there in 2024.
It's really, really lovely. Like dozens of stages over the years, but the fanfare, the hype, the excitement, the exuberance of a grand depart. It's incredible, and that's a lovely story.
I bloody miss my dad too, and his pink lycra, Joel, at Christmas time.
What an enduring image that you've got there. And
let me tell you, I have better enduring images than my dear father in pink lycra. But
Sure. Marco Pantani, as you said, some controversy around his eventual demise, some doping allegations, but a remarkable career. So very, very special. Very, very special to see that happening in Italy. The Vuelta is also going to be starting in Barcelona, I think, for the first time since the 60s, the early 60s.
Barcelona. I love Barcelona.
Yeah.
They will start there since 1962. It has been a lovely return to Barcelona for the Vuelta. And you'd think, and of course Madrid is the capital of Spain, but a lot of people think that Barcelona is because it's so well known. So it's interesting, isn't it, that their tour has only started there once before in history, but it's got a little bit of a tale behind it because in 1962, when it did start in Barcelona, Jacques Anquetil, and I found this fantastic photo that we've got up here in the studio of he and his teammate Rudi Altig. So Anquetil was going to the Vuelta to make it 3 Grand Tours, the first rider in history to win all 3. He'd won the Giro, he'd already won the Tour, but he got upstaged by his young German teammate. So they were in the same team, and Rudi Altig took away that 1962 edition of the Vuelta. So it's a bit of a ding-dong battle in history.
A ding-dong battle.
It is.
I love it.
It's a great one. So I reckon that's a really good omen for what we might see.
Okay.
It starts with a team's time trial, and then they go up the very famed Montjuic, which is at the back of Barcelona. Of course, one side of Barcelona is the harbour, and then up into the mountains. So it's going to be pretty cool.
Pretty special city.
I know, but there's so many. Every tour is announcing where they're starting and finishing and stages, and it's a little bit hard to keep up with the years, to be honest. But yes, there is. What is sure is that there's some pretty exciting Grand Tours in the next couple of years.
Lots of backdrops, lots of pushing for locations and all of that kind of thing.
Indeed.
And even, dare I say, the Alula push as well for the beautiful locations. Come and embrace this new cycling hub. Not that Italy is a new cycling hub by any stretch, but it's really lovely to see. Rudi becoming Germany's first ever Grand Tour winner in that famous ding-dong battle, as you spoke of. How cool. Now, I know that you're an investigative journalist. You've got your finger on the pulse.
I am.
Have you been able to find the Austral winners anywhere? Did you track it down? 'Cause
I have.
It's not easy.
I did. The internet was not my friend. I like to think that I'm good on the Google.
Yeah.
Alas, I failed myself. But no, Alex Manley won the women's Austral, Kel O'Brien the men's. It was, of course, the 125th edition, Joel. We talked about it last week. Good on them. Big names too.
Yeah.
I love it when, it shows how much respect these riders have for the races when they're racing all year. They've got Commonwealth Games, Olympics, World Championships. They're flat out, and then they still turn up to race this kind of event in Australia.
I want to say Merry Christmas to you and congratulations to the Australs.
Joel.
I've got some jingle bells
Thank
here.
you. No, that is
Jingle
a cowbell.
bells,
That,
jingle
in fact,
bells.
is a Santos Tour Down Under specific cowbell. But on the Merry Christmas, Joel, I've got a bit of a Chrissy present for you.
This wasn't planned at all.
So I've got a Merry Christmas bag here because I really get into Christmas.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't have it any other way. I'm just going to hand this over the desk to you.
Gracias,
and if you could talk us through what you find in there.
Firstly, a lovely calico bag, good for the planet, all of that. Say no to plastic.
And thank you very much to Ali and Chris at Champ Systems who helped me present you with this Chrissy present, Joel.
So this is like, and it's a gifting, but it's also kind of like an unboxing, an unveiling.
Yes,
I get
ho,
the
ho,
sense.
ho.
Ho, 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 indeed. Okay.
I'm excited. I know what's in there. That's why I'm excited.
Are you
All
really?
right, come on, let's
have a look. So Catherine Bates, Olympian world champion, has provided a Christmas present in conjunction with our very good friends at Champ Sys and Grow Getters. Oh my goodness! Oh, I need to get back from the mic because I'm shouting so loudly. It is a Wheelhouse podcast. Kate, what's going on here?
It is a jazzy watermelon and black Wheelhouse cycling podcast kit. Cycling kit.
Can you tell? Does it fit?
It will fit. It is beautiful. I'm also very thankful to Champ Sys for popping the River City studio. There's a little logo on the back there because this would not happen without them. So how about that? You're going to look pretty jazzy riding around town in that, do you reckon, Joel?
Well, for someone who already looks pretty jazzy, this is going to take me to like the moon of jazziness and back.
Stratospherically jazzy.
River City Studios, massive shout out to them.
Yes.
Logo on the back there. I love that we've got like, follow, share. Just do that because that's what makes this possible. One thing I really like is that I'm now the proud owner of socks.
Cycling
and I feel
socks,
like
no
they're the
less.
right height too because I know that there's some tough regulations around that. These are meticulously measured. They are beautiful.
Yeah, so you've got a beautiful jersey that we've just unpacked. We've got some cycling nicks. Joel, I will show you how to fold those.
Did you just notice I was trying to fold them?
We've talked about that. So they are beautiful black nicks with the logo on the back as well.
Hang on, just let me check one thing. Okay, that is a sufficient degree of padding.
You're just squeezing the chamois there. I thought it doesn't squeak if you were thinking that it might squeak. And we've also got a little cycling cap too, Joel. So there you go. So you're all kitted out now.
I'm very, 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 very grateful to our friends at Champ Sys for putting this together. The Wheelhouse podcast has its own kit with a good thick chamois.
Yes.
I'm going to reiterate the significance of a good, thick, absorbent chamois. And this very much has that. It's got our colours. It's got
it's beautiful.
socks.
So thank you for the team there. And
go on, put your hat on.
Luke, Merksy, Luke and I have also got ourselves a kit. So we will be, watch out for us at the Tour Down Under.
Yeah,
if you see watermelon, that's us.
Very hard to miss. We will have to put some photos up on our socials and please let us know what you think because I obviously love it. This is fantastic.
Yes, it is.
I got a genuine surprise. I didn't realise this was what was in the bag. I thought it was going to be a Star Wars thing.
Oh, no.
Kidding.
I mean, normally our gifts to you, Joel, are Star Wars themed, but alas, not today. And look, before we go, Joel, on the spirit of Merry Christmas, a very big thank you to everybody who's supported us to this point because this is our first Christmas as a podcast. We're half a year in now and it's been pretty incredible for everybody who's joined us on the journey. And top of that list, I have to thank the crew at River City Studios. So Luke Mears, Gareth Berner and Craig Thomas. Couldn't do it without them. Jeremy Harchner and Brian Gallagher over at Listener as well, who support us. This has been an absolute ball this year, but we wouldn't be here without that incredible support, and we look forward to lots more fun in the future. And, of course, another shout to Champ Sis, because Ali and Chris there have been incredible supporting us. We've now got our own kit. This is very exciting.
Yes.
And we look forward to rolling into 2023.
Yeah. Sprinting.
Yeah, sprinting.
Hello.
Exactly.
Yeah. Echoed absolutely across the board to the team at River City Studios, Champion Systems, Grow Getters Australia, everyone else that has been part of the ride so far. There's many more great ones to come. And hang on, sorry.
Is that your phone again?
Cav, it's you. Hey, man, how you going? Yeah, is it Astana? He really likes the kit. Have we got enough money to pay Cav's salary to have him on our team?
No, but we'll get him a kit.
We'll get you a kit. He hung up. Oh. That's okay. He likes the kit, though. Somehow he's seen the kit.
Just send him a DM. Slide into his DMs and ask his sizes, and we'll sort it out.
We're on the radar. No, we're on the radar. That's the most important thing.
And while we're at it, Glutes O'Connor, if you want a kit, it's all yours.
You heard it here first, Glutes. If you're listening, all I want for Christmas is Glutes O'Connor to confirm that, yes, indeed, he does want a Wheelhouse kit. What do you want for Christmas?
I want to see Rachel Nayland and Amanda Spratt in Wheelhouse kit is what I want.
Yeah, love it.
No, I want a few days, Joel, to ride my bike with my family and just to chill out and enjoy. That's what I want for Christmas.
Well, I hope you get to do that because you work very, very hard. It's a pleasure to be working with you and Mearsy, Merksy. Oh, no, I gave his name again. Merksy as well, and the team here, Gareth, Craig. I'm going to give them a shout out as well. Absolute wizardry happens in the bunker, and well, not in the bunker. Don't know what happens in the bunker, but what happens outside the bunker is absolute wizardry, and we're very, very grateful for that. Kate Bates, I'm going to say...
It's time to go eat pudding. Turn your phone off.
Oh, no, yes, no, I'm happy with my internet speed. Okay, bye. Wasn't here. All good.
We've got some pudding to go and eat, so...
Yeah, Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you so much for your support. We'll do it again before you know it.
Before you know it.
Until they pull us off the airwaves, I reckon. Okay. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
Oh, I got the socks caught in my hand. Merry Christmas.
Couldn't have planned that if you tried.
The Wheelhouse podcast is produced for Listener by the team at River City Studios. It's sponsored by our friends at Champion System and Grow Getters Australia. It's written and produced by Kate Bates, and I tag along as well. My name's Joel Spreadborough. Thanks for coming along for the ride.
Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.